Okay.
There we go.
So after we've done, we start at the top right-hand corner. We would put obviously the affiliation name, UMWA, whether it was policyholder or discount card, whatever that may be there. We go directly below it, and it just reflects whatever this was. So if it was UMWA, that's a union. Then we start down at number 1 and work our way from left to right. So first thing we do is find out the middle initial. So the format of the name always has to be last name, comma, first name, space, middle initial. So there can't be any spaces in between the last name and the first name, but there's always one between this and the middle initial. So we would put J, and anytime you type something or select anything in any of these boxes and you need to move on to the next box, you always hit tab. This one will ask you if you want to change the name, obviously. So
another thing to take into account right there is that whoever is listed in box A, if the bank account is not in the name of person in box A, then that's when down below what Adam's about to get to, you'll have to put another person in there to be the owner.
So also along with the name, it's loading, give it just a second. Okay, there we go. So if they're a junior or if they're a senior, you would put that right here. So you would put a space after the last name and put SR if they're a senior. So it would be Hannah Senior, comma, Adam J. So we're just gonna, since I'm not a senior, then obviously we would back that up. But now continuing to left to right, this box won't be checked. First thing we check is I saw. Whether you're on the phone or over Zoom or in person, you have to check I saw. Obviously their birthday is already filled out and their age. You ask them, I always ask, were you born in West Virginia? If they were, click the drop down box. Instead of wasting time scrolling through it, all you do is hit WW, like you hit the W key twice. So WW tab, and then it goes on to the next. Now we're over to the right a little bit right here on height. So we ask them, you would ask, how tall are you? Well, 5'8", and then tab, 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 because we're forward, and then tab to keep going to the right. How much do you weigh? 170. And then obviously we can continue to the right and tab. The sex is already selected. It's important to note that if the sex has not been selected, if for example, if I add in a wife here on B, at that point, I would have to put a birth date and male or female before it would let me circle A and B, because down here, A and B corresponds with up here A and B. So notice how there's no blue around B for me to circle. But anyways, continuing across, then we would go to number 2, which would be social security number. So we would obviously fill that out and then go down to number 3 right below it. So number 3, then you're at this point, we're just sticking to the numbers. So it would be, then always have to put the state. So then we're going to go to number 4. This is where what Blake was talking about. So the owner of the policy can be, but it normally is, but doesn't have to be the person that's covered by the policy. So for example, if me and my wife if I'm getting coverage on myself and I'm in primary insured A, whoever's in A is the person that's getting coverage on them, or B, they're getting coverage on them as well if there's a person in B. So that means if I'm getting coverage on me, but my name is not on mine and my wife's bank account, so we want to use my wife's bank account, but my name's not on it, then I wouldn't be the owner of the policy, because the owner of the policy is the person whose bank account the money comes out of to pay for it. So that would mean that down here on number 4, if my wife was the one, she wouldn't be up here at all. But if she's the one whose bank account it's coming out of, now if our names are both on it, that's fine. I can be the owner and the insured. But if only her name's on it, then I would click this. Person to be owner of policy, other is other. And then you would type their name in here. So I would type her last name, first name, social, and relationship there. And then she would be the one signing the payer line. So we're just going to assume that my name's on the bank account. So I would be the owner and the primary insured. So I would check mark primary insured A and then go on to number 5. Occupation. So it gives you a list of things. You know, if for example, if none of these apply to me, which majority of people these won't apply to because they'll be employed somewhere. If, for example, if I work in the coal mines, my occupation would be coal miner. So it doesn't give you that option. You have to type in coal miner. And then tab to move on to number 6, employer's name, Arch Coal. That would just be the name of the company. So it would be the occupation and then the employer's name. Then we're going to number 7. So that would be the address that the family receives their mail at. Whoever is under primary insured A, this is where they get their mail. So okay, so then there always has to be an email address. If there's no email address put on this, the application has to be rewritten. So this email address has to be the same email address that you send the verification, the electronic signature verification form over to, because typically whenever they sign the application on here, they are signing it themselves. But if we are signing it for them because we're over Zoom or we're over the phone, then we have to get their authorization through an email that also gets sent to the home office. Whatever their email that I'm sending that authorization to has to be the exact same email that's on this line. So now after we filled out their email, well, we skipped number 8, but over at number 8, there has to be 2 phone numbers on every application or it will not get sent. You can't just have one. If they only have a home phone and no cell phone, then you have to put the next best number, whether it's their child or their sister or their mother, whoever it may be. So then we're going on to down to number 10, because we already did number 9, which was the email. So number 10, this is every time you see an A, it corresponds with whoever's under this A. Every time you see a B, it would correspond with, if someone was under B, that's who it would correspond with, along with C1, which is child, C2 is C3. If they're getting coverage on their kids, C1 is the oldest child. Say they have 3 kids and they're getting coverage on all 3. C1 would be the oldest, C2 the second oldest, C3 the third oldest. And if they have more than 3 kids they're getting coverage on, C4 would go on page 3. That's the only reason you would ever use page 3. It's taking a second to load. So see here, C4 is the first thing on the page. That's the only time you would ever use page 3 is if they're getting coverage on more than 3 kids. So also, this is important. I skipped this. It already, whatever you plug into the needs analysis already fills out whether this is NTU is yes or no. If the box has an X in it, it means that you're saying that whoever's under this line does not use tobacco, stands for non-tobacco user. So if this box if they use tobacco, then this box is not X'd out. It would have nothing in it. It would be blank. So now on to number 10 where we were. So primary beneficiary. So that means whoever's under A's primary beneficiary's name goes here, and whatever their relationship is to primary insured A goes here. So obviously if I was married, it would be my wife, most likely. But this is where you'd ask them who would be handling your funeral if you died. So that would be, so wife. Now also notice how it doesn't have every relationship here. So if, for example, my sister, if I'm not married, don't have kids, my sister's going to be my primary beneficiary. Doesn't say sister as an option. You just type sister in and hit enter or tab and then move on. So we're just going to hit tab to keep going. Contingent beneficiary. The easiest way to explain it, you don't ever want to overcomplicate it for people. Just keep it simple. If and your primary beneficiary died in a common accident, who would be the one handling your funeral? Or if your beneficiary died before you did, obviously they wouldn't be around to claim your policy anymore. Who would then be there to claim it? Okay, so your my mother. So uh, all right, so now we're going to go to number 11. So these ones is any insurance applied for intended to replace anything? No, and it never is. You always hit no there. Is proposed to insure a U.S. citizen? Yes. You always hit yes there. I mean, the odds of you sitting with somebody who's not is not very likely. I have before, but it's not very likely. Do you wish to have automatic premium loan provision? That's an always a yes. So then their coverage amount doesn't have a number beside it, but that's what's right here. So like I said before, the reason there's an A, B, C here, and there's also a B and a C here is because when you check mark, these aren't available because I don't have anything under B or C. So that's why these aren't available either. Now, if I did, if I had somebody under B and under C1, this would be blue, this would be blue, this would be blue, and this would be blue. And it would give me the option to circle it and enter coverage amounts for those people. The difference in these two, B and C, and these two is this B means that whoever's under B, if I circle it and put a coverage amount in, they're a rider on A's policy. Okay, same for C here. Now, if I circle this B, that means that they have their own policy. Same for C. If I circle this C, it means they have their own policy. Right now, there's no one in, so the only thing we're worried about is A. So I'm kind of going to go over this real quick and explain it. So whole life, preferred life, executive life, select life. So what that means is there's tiers of discounts that people get for depending on how much coverage they're getting. Like, for example, if you see 30,000 in whole life bracket, anything from $0 or $1 of insurance where it says face amount, that's the insurance premium, that's how much they pay. Anything from $1 of coverage up to $30,099 of coverage would go under whole life, WL. Anything above $30,099, which would be $30,100 up to $49,999 would go under preferred life. Because as you can see, if we do 30,000, how much was it? $32, $32.60 a month. But if we do 30,100, it's $27. So it's cheaper to have 30,100 than it is to have 30,000. With the commission percentage, the further up this list you go, the commission percentage reduces a little bit. Not very much, but a little bit. So from, like I said, from 30,100 to 49,999 is preferred. Now 50,000 to 99,999 is under executive life. See, if you're in this box and you try to enter 50,000, it won't work. It'll say exceeded the maximum number of units. So that's when you would have to, it'll put the maximum in. So that's when you would go here, plug 50,000 in. Failed to meet minimum. Oh, because I put 5,000. So then it'll put the minimum, 50,000 for this box. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so if they're having term added on to their whole life, like say they needed term and whole life, well, at that point, these are riders on their whole on policy, on their policy. So if they're getting 50,000 a whole life and 100,000 of term, then you would 10-year RNC is what the term is, and then you'd enter their coverage amount there. And so then we would have, this would be the total premium for primary insured A. And this is the total premium for everybody, which since primary insured A is the only one, it's the same as this one. So ADB right here, all of these are optional. Like ADB is accidental, waiver of premium. That means if they get disabled for any reason, they can't work, then they don't have to pay their premiums anymore. It's only $3 a month, so it's always worth it to add that on there. So now that we've got this lined out, now if somebody just needs term, if I'm trying to set somebody up with 30,000 of whole life, and that's too expensive because they're laid off, one of the best things you can do is unmark whole life and see this box with a blank beside it. This is what lets you enter term as the primary coverage. So if we do 10-year R&C, renewable and convertible, and plug in the coverage amount, we can get them now locked in with 30,000 for $11 a month instead of $32 a month for 30,000 of whole life. That's only if they can't afford the regular whole life coverage. So now, off on number 14. Next one is, now I think there was one we were going to skip. No, okay, so 12. Don't worry about filling out anything in 12. It doesn't matter. So there's 4 of them you don't need to fill out. 12, 15, 16, and 17. So don't fill out 12. Here's 13, 14, those 2 questions. You don't fill out 12, 15, 16, or okay. So then this is where the bank account information goes in. So if they use Chase Bank, that's where the name, what branch? Okay, the one in Beckley. All right. And obviously it's West Virginia. Routing a number goes on the left, account number goes on the right. It has to be always from a checking account, and this is whatever draft day that they select for their policy to be drafted each day of the month. So you would explain to them, your first payment will come out of your account within a week of today. The next one will come out on whatever day of the month that you choose for next month. That's what you would explain. So then if they say they want to come out on the 6th, if we type the 6th here and hit tab, it pulls up, based on your monthly draft date, you'll be drafted on 6/6/2020. Whatever the date shows here will be their second draft, not their first draft. Their first draft will be within a week. Whatever date this pulls up will be their second draft. We'll go over the 14-day window thing later.
Hey, and remember too on these, they can't, like Adam said, they can only use a checking account. If they have a savings account, various agencies, we don't do it. If they try to use a green dot card or a debit card or anything, it has to be a bona fide check account, not with a cloud bank. It has to be with a bank that actually has a branch. And like he mentioned with the draw dates there, whenever they pick their draw date, it needs to be 14 days away from whatever day you're doing the application with them. That way it doesn't double draft them. We can always change it after we set it up, but just explain to them, usually when you set somebody up with a policy, the next Thursday it'll draft, depending on if we're on Monday to Monday or Thursday to Thursday. And then it'll draft the following month on whatever day they selected. But if they do it away from 14 days, it'll do it the next week and then again on the draft date, but in that same month. So that's just to protect them right there.
Yeah. Okay. Ideally, you want to set it up on a day that falls within the next 14 days of the day you're setting it up. Because if I set it up 15 days from today, if I'm setting this policy up and I set it up for 15 days from today, after outside of 14 days, that means it's going to draft within a week, and then it's going to draft another day this month outside of 15 days from now, or 14 days from now. So now we go on to page 2. After you can, if you want to, you can save this for last, the bank account information, but I was just, since it's on page 1, I showed it to you. Page 2 is just a health and medical information sheet. So everything on page 2, basically describes, whether they can qualify, to where their doctor is, his name, number, address, all that stuff. So now we would start and just go through all these health questions with them. And we're just going to say for now that they don't take any medicines. So I'm going to explain what happens if they do, but we're going to say for now, they tell us that they don't take any medicine. Notice how under question 29, you always answer if they have, as long as they've had a physical exam within the last, which means I just say, have you been to the doctor in the last 5 years? If they say yes, you click yes. Any medical treatment, including prescription medications. Understand that that's kind of a tricky spot, because if someone takes a blood pressure medicine, but you list it under this, then you aren't doing what you're supposed to do. And the reason why is because there's a question here that says on number 23, have you ever been advised to take tests and not done so, not received this, blah, 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 treatment for high blood pressure, chest pain, heart attack, stroke, or any blood or circulatory disorder? If they take high blood pressure medicine, then you have to click yes to this question and high blood pressure. Fill out the high blood pressure, because what happens is if you click no to this one and then put a high blood pressure medicine in on this one, then there's not going to be a questionnaire that pulls up for high blood pressure. So then once we
basically
off, our home office is going to come back and say, we need a questionnaire for high blood pressure because they take a high blood pressure medicine.
Yeah, anything on this page right here, man, understand that anything that you click yes on, there's going to be a questionnaire for after we get done with. You see that little screen right behind the application screen right there? Click on it. See that right there? So on this screen, whatever you hit yes to in those questions, right here, it's going to pull up a bunch of questionnaires whenever we validate it that have to be answered. Okay, go back to the med question screen.
So now I'll show you. I'll click yes. So say that they tell me that they take high blood pressure medicine, okay? So I'm just going to, I know that whether they say they have high blood pressure or not, if they take high blood pressure medicine, then you have to click yes to question 23. So I click yes, and then I picked high blood pressure. And when I do that, now if you notice in the screen behind it, there's now a high blood pressure questionnaire there. See that?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And when I go in it, when I open it up, it asks, when were they diagnosed with high blood pressure? Do you take medication? Yes. Name. That's a medicine name. How many milligrams and how often? So it's like, it'd be like 25 lisinopril, 25 milligrams once a day. And
one of the main things with this too is whenever, like he was saying with that one medication box, all of these questionnaires, whether it's heart attack, stroke, cancer, high blood pressure, diabetes, like there's several things you're going to learn as time goes on. And I'm not, stay right where you're at, Adam. I'm just throwing in. Like if somebody has high blood pressure and diabetes, we have to trial their application, meaning it doesn't take their money and they have to dig a little bit further into the med records. If they have high blood pressure and thyroid, it's not a trial. If it's over 1,000 milligrams of medication, any prescription medication, it's a trial. There's certain medications that don't matter. So a lot of this stuff is going to be experience-based while you're going through applications and sitting with people just communicating back and forth and seeing how things work. But right here, the only thing that I'll tell you is with the medications, if you answer the diabetic questionnaire and you put in the name of the medication and everything else, and that's the only thing that they take, you wouldn't go click on that other 28B or 28A?
29B.
You wouldn't go click on 29B and re-add that medication. 29B is only for things like gabapentin, narcotics, Xanax, pain pills, stuff like medications that wouldn't be listed in any of the, because when you do when they have like COPD and stuff like that, or if they use a CPAP machine, it's going to ask them what kind of meds and things they take. So the only thing that will prompt that box to pull up otherwise is if you click yes that they have thyroid, okay, which is endocrine disorder. If you click yes for that, there's not a thyroid questionnaire, but it will bring up the same box that would pop up if you were to hit yes that they take prescription medication for 29B. So you would just go out there in that box and put down the name of the med, how much they take, the frequency, and what it's used for, and then fill out the rest of it, which we'll get to. But I just kind of wanted to clear that up, that there are certain things that are considered trials. I'll get you an auto trial sheet. That way you know exactly what to look for. But certain medications like weights, things like that, as you progress and get further, I want to work on this stuff daily to make sure that we're learning exactly what the trial, what not the trial. But yeah, don't overwork yourself. If you hit yes for the questionnaire, don't add the medicines twice in the other box.
Yeah, we never double list any medicines. So that means that, you know, like he was saying, like if I click yes here, and I put right here in this box, just I think being able to see it helps. If I put a medicine here in this box, lisinopril, I'm not going to click if that's the only medicine that they take. Okay, they don't take anything else. High blood pressure. Okay, so when I go up to this question that says any prescription medications, I'm going to hit no because I've already listed that medicine under that questionnaire. Okay. Now I'm going to go through all these medical questions. Once they're all answered, obviously I would have to fill this out, the whole thing. See where it says name and address of doctor with current records. I just always put same as primary. And that just means that whatever doctor that you listed right here under the doctor name right here, this doctor, this is their primary care physician. So if you put same as primary on that, it's just going to let them know that they have the records on file for their high blood pressure medicine. So obviously where it says here, this is the next thing we go to. Obviously where it says name, address, phone number, there's not enough room in this box for all that stuff. So all you're going to put here is doctor. They see Dr. John Smith. John Smith, see notes. Okay, the notes section is down at the bottom right here. So that means that if, for example, we see a different doctor every time we go there, okay, that's fine. What's the name of the medical facility? You just put the name of the medical facility. So that would be Logan Regional Hospital. See notes. Okay, so then we're going to look up online on Google. We're going to look up the phone number for this facility. When were you guys last at the doctor? Okay, last month. Cool. Or March, whatever. Nothing here. You don't put anything in the medical records ID number. City, what I always, for right now, just put Beckley as this. That's what I've been putting every time. And then normally when you're in their house, you put this as whatever town that you're sitting in whenever you're setting them up with the policy. But I just always put Beckley since we're doing it virtual anyway. It doesn't really matter, I don't think, what you put there. And then here, remember, if we go back to this question that says, is this being intended to replace anything through any this or any other company? Never. It's never intended to replace anything. So we go on page 2. This is the same question. Is not intended to replace any insurance that's now in effect. And then we always have it, we go down to best time to call. It'd be, you ask them when would be the best time to get a hold of you guys. If they say morning, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Okay. Obviously, mail policy too, always check policyholder. And then we go to the notes and Logan Regional Hospital, we look up the address to it. So then we're going to put doctor notes. And then you would put the doctor's address, the medical facility's address. So 123 John Smith Way, Logan, West Virginia. And you have to put the entire zip code. So that means if you don't put this here, if you fill everything out perfect and you don't put that zip code, this will not get sent through. They're going to be waiting on the zip code before they send it through. So everything has to be done perfectly. There can't be any mistakes on the Eapp. So now that's everything. We've went through everything other than filling out the high blood pressure questionnaire. But
yeah, go ahead and show him the end process right there.
Let me look up this information. Okay, so routing number. So now what we'll do, we'll hit validate. I'm not going to fill this out right now, but normally you'd have to. So now we hit validate. Where is it? It's on the top left-hand corner of the page when you click on the super combo. Right here. See that?
Mm-hmm.
So now click validate, and it'll let you know if there's anything wrong or not filled out on the application.
Okay.
Driver's license format is invalid for this state. See where it says error. Social Security is not formatted correctly. So now I've redone that. Hit validate again. Takes a minute to load when you click validate as well. Okay, there are no errors on this form. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now that we've hit validate, there's all these things here. Okay, so the next step is, see how one of them has goggles on it, the blue goggles.
Mm-hmm.
Them do. You have to, where you can hit next and move forward, you have to view every one of these pages. So can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to open and close these. So open, close, HIPAA. The next one that doesn't have goggles. See, now that I open and closed it, it has goggles on it.
Mm-hmm.
HIPAA, open, close it. HIV, open, close. Oral specimen. If you're in person, you have to put a mouth swab kit number, which there's a number on the mouth swabs. If it requires a mouth swab, you have to get a mouth swab from them. Just use the rule of thumb. If it requires it, you have to get it, unless you're doing it virtual. If you're doing it virtual, then you would type right here, virtual. Payer information. Okay, close that. Now, all of them except replacement have goggles. So now on replacement, there's a couple things you're going to have to click on. This is asking if they, at the top it says I do or don't, whether or not they have existing life insurance in place. So let's say I do, just click I do. These two are always no. These are asking again if it's being intended to replace anything. So these two down below are always no. So it's always, you know, if they have it, click I do. If they don't have life insurance already, click I do not. And then always click no and no there. Close that. Now they all have goggles on them, right? Okay, so now I'm going to hit next now that they all have goggles. And then once you do this, once you hit next, it locks everything that you've put in it. So you can't adjust anything that you've already entered. It locks it all in. You can always unlock it if you need to, but at this point, everything should already be filled out right regardless. So it's going to jump around for a minute, and then once it loads, you'll see what it does. Okay, so notice how they all have goggles except these two have check marks. See that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that means any of them after we've hit next when they all had goggles, if you see one of them that has a green check mark, you have to get all of them to have a green check mark before you hit next now. So you always start from the top on super combo. Those mean that the signatures are done if there has a green check mark. So now, So now's the point where you would send them an email, the virtual sale authorization form in an email and have them type agree, reply all, agree, and send. So after they've done that, which I always try to get that done before I sign the application. But now that they've responded to the email, you scroll down to the bottom, and anywhere there's a blue X with a red X beside it, you need a signature. So then we would type whoever the owner is, not who's covered by it. So if the person to be owner of policy is proposed insured A, then it's me. So then we would type, if you have Adam J. Hanna in A, you can't type Adam Hanna in the signature. You have to type Adam J. Hanna. So whatever is up here, and you don't always, I mean, I always do it just in case, but you don't necessarily always need a middle initial. But it basically, the most important thing is whatever you've put under A has to be, or whoever the owner is going to be, however their name is put on top, has to be the same as it is down here. So now we're going to click the X, Adam, space, middle initial. You always just say first name, space, middle initial, space, last name. Or if there's no middle initial, first name, space, last name, because some people don't even have middle names. And then enter. See how it says signature does not match application. Do you want to proceed? Sometimes it just says that. It doesn't, because now if you want to make sure, hit no, and then see it's exactly the same. It just says that. There's an error in the system somewhere. So hit yes, page 2. Now we're going to go scroll down to the doctor's information signatures. So proposed insured if over 18. Notice how there's an X, a red X beside this one, and this one, but not beside this one. That's because it says signature of owner if other than proposed insured. So that means that if, back up here, if the owner was different than the proposed insured, if we click this and put a different person in, basically whoever's name is signed here on the signature of the payer and the owner is whoever gets put on this line, unless it's the same as the proposed insured. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now we're going to type the name again.
So I have a question. When does the presentation for the client end? Because this seems like all stuff you're doing after you finish talking to them. Are you still talking to them while you're filling this stuff out? No. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're talking to them. You're just asking them all these questions basically at this point.
Okay.
And you're
you're still talking to them while you're sending them out the email to get their signatures and stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So now sign, says it doesn't match again, but it does. And it's going to be the same name on here and this is the agent. So on the left side here is the person you're signing up. Down here, signature of agent, which is going to be the same. Now apply signature. So now if you hit X on this before you've signed everything, it'll pop up with a notification that says, are you sure you want to exit? Not all required fields have been signed. So then you'll know that there's something else that needs signed. But if you click X and it goes away, then you know they're all signed. Notice how there's a green check mark now by that. So then at that point, we just open everyone that doesn't have a signature yet, and you click the X and you click apply signature. You don't have to keep typing it in anymore. Click the X,
Okay.
apply signature. So I'm not going to go any further because I didn't put this in training mode. But basically at this point, all you do is open all of these documents, apply signatures to them, hit next, continue, submit, next, 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 finish. That's all you do from here on out. So like I said, I'm not going to close it out because it's in live sale mode, but that's literally everything. I can't think of anything else with the Eapp that you might need to know. I mean, like he said, there's going to be a lot of things that are experience-based, like what makes somebody uninsurable, what combinations of medications and health conditions cause somebody to be a trial. Now understand, I'll just explain it now, and I'll show you where to do it later and I'll do it in training mode. But right now, so at this point, you haven't selected whether this application is going to be a trial or standard. So the difference in a trial and standard is standard means as soon as we sign this and close this out, and send it to we send it to home office, they go ahead and draft their bank account before our underwriting department makes sure that they can qualify for a policy. So we're taking their word for it. You know, whatever they say, they say they don't have any health conditions, we're taking their word for it that, you know, they're going to get qualified, and they're going to go ahead and draft the bank account, and you're going to go ahead and get paid on it next week. Now, if they have high blood pressure, they're overweight, and they have diabetes, then we're not going to be able to send that through as standard. Those are 3 conditions that in combination, we're going to have to send it as a trial. So what a trial is it doesn't draft their bank account immediately. And what'll happen is you won't get paid on it